My husband's outside woman, Jessica, was pregnant, and he brought her home on our third wedding anniversary. She ordered me around with her nose in the air. My underwear needs to be hand-washed. You can do it from now on. Also, my culture values politeness. When Mark and I are intimate, as his wife, you should kneel beside us and wait to serve us. I looked at her lower limbs, which had slightly bowed legs, and refused without hesitation. Mark Miller sneered, his eyes full of disdain. All right, Sarah, I'm tired of your games. More tired of them than I am of sleeping with you. Just behave, and the position of Mrs. Miller will always be yours. The whole room burst into laughter, implying I was being ungrateful. The old me would have apologized and tried to make peace, but I didn't want to anymore. I turned around, took their hands, and joined them together. For such a polite culture, you sure act like animals. Since the title of Mrs. Miller is so great, she can have it. You two should live happily ever after and stop ruining other people's lives. With that, I turned and walked away without hesitation. My father was right, men outside the family easily change their hearts. It was time to give the man raised within the family a proper title. Wait! Just as I stepped one foot out the door, Mark Miller's voice rang out. Sarah, you can leave, but sign this divorce agreement. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. Although he had been with countless women outside, this was the first time he'd asked me to sign divorce papers. Jessica is pregnant with my child now. I can't let her be unhappy. After she gives birth, I'll remarry you. Seeing that I still wasn't moving, a clear flicker of impatience crossed Mark Miller's eyes. Sarah, I love you very much, but we've been together for 7 years, from dating to marriage, and I'm genuinely bored. Can't we just have some space for a while? You can go out and find someone else, I won't mind. When you're done having fun, we'll come back to the family and live a good life again. Don't worry, I'll keep the position of Mrs. Miller for you. A bitter feeling welled up in my heart. He had said these words countless times. In the past, I had cried and argued, acting like a crazy person, hysterical and refusing to agree. But Mark Miller never cared and continued doing whatever he wanted. Slowly, I got used to it. Hearing these words now, I didn't feel much of anything. I picked up the pen and quickly signed the agreement. You're right. I'm definitely bored. Mark Miller's brow furrowed when he heard my words, but he quickly assumed I was just being petty. Since that's the case, take off the locket on your neck too. Jessica has been having nightmares lately. She can wear it. The locket was something he obtained through extreme hardship and fervent prayer during the first year of our marriage when I had a persistent high fever from a viral infection. It also contained his initials and wedding date. He once said he had a strong fate and was willing to shield me from misfortune my whole life. Seeing that I didn't speak, he had an I knew it expression. I thought you had really come to your senses. Turns out you were just pretending again. All right, how much money do you want? Even though I was prepared, my heart still ached against my will. After so many years of feeling, how much money should I ask for? I couldn't figure it out. I snatched the locket off. Because I used too much force, my neck was instantly covered in red marks. Mark Miller's gaze tightened, and he started to step forward but was blocked by Jessica. Thank you, sister. I handed the locket to her. But the moment I let go, she deliberately dropped it, and the locket shattered on the floor. Jessica's calf was scratched by a small piece, and Mark Miller looked panicked, shouting for a doctor in a hurry. Mark, don't blame sister. She definitely didn't mean to harm my baby. As soon as she said this, everyone's eyes on me became ambiguous. I gave a self-mocking smile and was about to leave, but Mark Miller grabbed my arm. Before I could react, Mark Miller slapped me across the face. The force was so strong it sent me tumbling to the ground, and the shattered pieces of the locket dug into the palm of my hand. Apologize. Mark Miller's brow slightly furrowed, his eyes fierce. There was not a shred of marital affection left in his expression. If you didn't want to give it, just say so. Why resort to such low-down tactics? You weren't like this before. You wouldn't even hurt a stray cat. How can you be so vicious now? I sneered, but my eyes couldn't help but turn red. But he wasn't like this before either. We met in university. He was the student body president. I liked cats and often fed the stray cats on campus, but someone with ill intentions accused me of abusing them. He stood firmly by my side, staked out for several nights, found the person who was truly abusing the cats, and cleared my name. Sal, even if the whole world doesn't believe you, I will always stand by your side. In just a few years, everything had changed. Mark Miller was still relentless, his eyes filled with the anger of someone in power being resisted. Sarah, apologize. In the year Mark Miller and Jessica had been together, I had apologized countless times. I had to apologize if I interrupted their date at the company. I had to apologize if I didn't answer his call in the middle of the night ordering me to bring him condoms. Even if I did nothing at all, Jessica would make me apologize if she found me annoying. I was numb. But at this moment, I simply refused to bow down for these baseless accusations to maintain this marriage that had long since festered and become rotten. I straightened my back, firm and indifferent. I won't apologize. Mark Miller laughed in anger, his gaze sweeping over the bracelet on my wrist. Since you won't apologize, you'll compensate me with your bracelet. The bracelet was left to me by my mother before she passed away. It was my only memento of her. I quickly covered my arm and took a few steps back. Just then, gasps of alarm rang out from the lobby. I looked up and saw the massive chandelier falling towards my position. It happened too fast. I had no time to react and froze in place, terrified. I could only watch as Mark Miller pulled Jessica and ducked out of the way. Only then did Mark Miller turn to look at me, his eyes bloodshot with urgency. Sal, move! Everything went black, and I completely lost consciousness. I slowly woke up in a hospital room. Mark Miller stood by the bed, his expression serious. You're awake. I turned my head, waves of dizziness and nausea washing over me. All right, stop pretending. The chandelier didn't even really hit you. Jessica is next door. Go apologize to her. I froze, not immediately understanding what he was saying. Why should I apologize? Mark Miller clenched his fist, looking at me as if I were being unreasonable. The staff confessed. You instructed them to deliberately loosen the chandelier. Now you're suffering the consequences of your own actions. Jessica said she's a woman too and understands your feelings. She won't hold it against you, as long as you give her a sincere apology. I was so angry I almost laughed at these words that completely twisted right and wrong. Just call the police. You're blind and heartless, let the police handle it. Impatience gradually appeared on Mark Miller's sharp-featured face, his voice laced with warning. Stop pretending. You perfectly avoided where the chandelier fell, and there isn't a single scratch on you. How can you be so scheming now? Apologize quickly while no one is pursuing it, otherwise you'll regret it. I shook my head bitterly, too lazy to even argue. Ever since he hired Jessica as his assistant a year ago, his wife, had become irrelevant. Everything I said was wrong, everything I did was malicious, and he believed others' blatant accusations against me. I had tried to argue in the past, but the truth would always stop the moment Jessica cried. Slowly, I had learned that arguing was useless. I knew you wouldn't apologize. I've already decided to compensate Jessica with a skin graft. What did you say? In a daze, I thought there was something wrong with my ears. A trace of heartache flashed in his eyes, but his expression was one of blaming me for causing him trouble. What you did this time was truly excessive. You caused Jessica to be cut by flying glass. She cares about her appearance, and your skin is delicate, so we'll use yours. The doctor will take you to the operating room shortly. Get ready. I was so angry tears streamed down my face. The 4-needle was pulled out, and blood flowed down the back of my hand. How can you make decisions for me? What did I do wrong that you have to bully me like this? He grabbed my hand and stopped the bleeding, his tone softening slightly. Jessica is alone in a foreign country. I have to be more considerate of her. Besides, she's crying uncontrollably. I couldn't help it. Just bear with it. It's just skin from the inside of your arm. It will be over quickly. I've already arranged for the best medical team. There won't be any problems. I'll stay with you after the surgery too. Listening to his words, my heart felt utterly cold. Who the hell wants you to stay? Jessica needs your sympathy. Does that mean I deserve to be uncared for and unloved? I couldn't speak anymore. Tears streamed down uncontrollably like a broken string of pearls. My family had always opposed my relationship with Mark Miller. For him, I rebelliously ran away from home, came to this unfamiliar city, and hadn't seen my family in 7 years. He knew all of this, yet he still chose to stab me in the heart. Mark Miller froze. A surge of inexplicable emotion made him feel strangely guilty. He could only patiently coax me. Sal, just bear with it for me. After Jessica has the baby, I'll remarry you. We'll live a good life together, no more fussing. I pulled the blanket over my head, furious, tears streaming. Endure, endure, endure. I had been hearing these words for 3 years. I suddenly didn't understand what kind of person I had fallen for, and what I had been doing for the past few years. Absurd. Truly absurd. My body trembled with sobs hidden under the blanket, but I only heard a sigh from outside the blanket. Calm down. The nurse will take you to the operating room in 10 minutes. I threw off the blanket, my voice hoarse with rage. Get out! It wasn't until he closed the door that I tremblingly took out my phone and dialed the number saved as Mr. A. Come pick me up. With him, I was always domineering. After all, he spoiled me. 10 minutes later, Jessica and I were both wheeled into the operating room. Mark Miller leaned over and kissed Jessica's forehead, his eyes overflowing with tenderness. His slender fingers gently stroked her swollen abdomen, but he never looked my way. Jessica clutched Mark Miller's hand, crying dramatically. Mark, I'm so scared. Sarah is your wife. Everyone has to listen to her. If she's in the operating room and tries to harm our baby, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect it. Her words made me frown, but then I saw Mark Miller's expression instantly tighten. He pondered for a moment, then spoke to me. Sal, just in case, I'll have to tie your hands and feet. Bear with it. Also, Jessica can't have anesthetic, so you'll stay with her, as a gesture of your sincere apology. I looked up at him in disbelief, my chest heaving with anger. He just guiltily avoided my gaze but let the nurse tie me to the operating table. They even taped my mouth shut. I wanted so badly to ask him how he could be so cruel after all these years of marriage. I wanted even more to ask if he would only believe me if I were dead. But I couldn't speak. And I knew in my heart that even if I could, it wouldn't matter. It had been like this for a year. A cold, bitter smile spread across my pale face. Never mind. I was leaving anyway. When the body hurts, the heart doesn't hurt as much. As soon as we were wheeled into the operating room, Jessica sat up. She looked down at me from above, her face showing no trace of injury or weakness. I instantly realized she wasn't injured at all and that everything was her plan. Her sharp, red fingernails grazed my cheek, making me tremble uncontrollably. Such a beautiful face, but why compete with me? Tell me, if this face were ruined, would Mark still remarry you? A bad premonition surged in my heart. I struggled with all my might but couldn't move a muscle, my eyes turning bloodshot with anxiety. Jessica smiled and shook her head, then disdainfully removed the gag from my mouth. I quickly spoke to stop her. You can't do this. Performing surgery without consent is illegal. Jessica acted as if she'd heard something hilarious and slapped me hard across the face. You Chinese people are so troublesome. All right, since you're not giving up, I'll ask Mark if he agrees, shall I? A flicker of schadenfreude crossed her eyes, as if she already knew the outcome. Go tell Mark I need skin from her face and have him sign the consent form. The operating room door opened, and my heart pounded in my chest. No woman is indifferent to her appearance, and I was no exception. I didn't believe that after years of marriage, he would let Jessica act so recklessly. But through the gap, I saw Mark Miller just glance inside and sign without hesitation. Tell Sal, no matter what she looks like, I won't dislike her. Seeing the operating room door about to close, I struggled wildly, pleading with Mark Miller for help. Mark Miller, please, save me. Yo. You once said that if we ever divorced, you'd grant me one wish. I'm asking you to fulfill it now. Stop this surgery. Jessica isn't hurt at all. She's deliberately trying to disfigure me. But no matter how I pleaded, it was useless. Mark Miller's cold voice came through. Sal, even now you're still falsely accusing others. You did this, you deal with the consequences. The operating room door closed completely. My eyes were filled with tears, and I closed them in despair. If I had done anything wrong in this life, the worst mistake was marrying Mark Miller. I lay weakly on the operating table, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I watched helplessly as the scalpel slowly approached me. Suddenly, the operating room door burst open again, and an urgent voice rang out. Stop! The next second, a scent-filled embrace enveloped me. My little crybaby, I'm taking you home. Let go of her. Mark Miller's angry and suppressed voice came from behind. The man's sharp-featured face curled into a mocking smile as he carefully untied my hands and feet. Mr. Miller, you should mind your own business. If you ever interfere with Sal's affairs again, I'll ruin you. Right, miss? He heavily emphasized the word miss, and my heart skipped a beat. Unexpectedly, my eyes met his, filled with longing. David Thompson was incredibly close, his warm breath fanning my face, making me blush instantly. When I was 8 or 9, the age when you don't care about behaving properly, I always liked to pull his ear and say he was the boy raised to be my husband, forcing him to call me Mississippi. But the way he looked now, tall and elegant, cold and distinguished, showed no trace of the boy from back then. I subconsciously wanted to pull away, but his arms held me firmly in his embrace. He pursed his lips, gesturing to the buttons on my chest that had come undone from struggling. Miss, are you sure you can walk? He took off his jacket and carefully draped it over me. His slightly cool fingers brushed against my shoulder almost imperceptibly, making me shiver. Sarah! Who the hell is he? Mark Miller's forehead veins bulged as he watched the intimate scene. How ridiculous. He was the one who forced me to sign the divorce agreement, and now he had the nerve to question me? I simply let David Thompson scoop me up into his arms, then wrapped my arms around his neck and echoed Mark's earlier words. Please, we've been together for 7 years, from dating to marriage, and I'm genuinely bored. What's wrong with going out and finding a younger, handsome guy with 8-pack abs to change things up? Mark Miller froze, his face turning red and white as he heard his own words repeated back to him. David Thompson paused, looking down at me with eyes full of indulgence. Holding me, he brushed past Mark Miller. Mark Miller was about to chase after him, but Jessica clutched his hand, crying dramatically. Mark, I'm in pain. It wasn't until David Thompson carried me into a specially arranged hospital room that I awkwardly let go of him. David Thompson placed me on the bed, then squatted down to look me in the eye, his gaze full of grievance. Miss, don't you want to check out my 8-pack abs? Or are you trying to run away again? David Thompson was the son of my father's comrade in arms. We grew up together as childhood friends destined to marry me, and marriage seemed like the natural course of action in our parents' eyes. But the year our families arranged for David and me to study abroad together, I secretly applied for university entrance exams and ran away. The thought of my life being so clearly laid out felt boring. Later, I met Mark Miller in university, a completely different type of person from David Thompson. In 7 years, I thought I had become a submissive housewife. But as soon as I saw David Thompson, I was still the same shy young girl I was back then. I feigned composure and reached my hand into his shirt, though I didn't dare look at him. It's not bad. He let out a chuckle, his eyes exceptionally bright. Glad you like it. You can touch them every day from now on. I blushed and nestled into his embrace. His strong arms were so warm they made me want to cry. I had always thought my parents were completely disappointed in me all these years and had cut ties with me. But now, David Thompson gently patted my back and explained. I told Mr. Sanders not to look for you all these years. Miss would naturally come back when she was done playing around. Are you going to blame me? I lowered my gaze, my nose feeling sore. What right did I have to blame him? I could only blame my own willfulness back then. I sat quietly astride him, letting him fasten the undone buttons on my top. I stared absently at the ceiling and said softly, "David Thompson, was I really absurd?" He sat by the bed, gently patting my shoulder repeatedly, as if coaxing a child. "You're the eldest daughter of the Sanders family. You can do whatever you want." It was such a gentle sentence, yet it struck my heart heavily, making me cry uncontrollably. He gently comforted me. Because we were so close, I could even see his thick eyelashes and faint stubble. I instantly blushed and stopped crying. He sighed, then tenderly stroked my somewhat gaunt cheek. "You haven't had a good 7 years." It wasn't a question, it was a statement of fact. I wanted to pretend to be strong and retort, but the tears I had just stopped began to flow again. The warm touch of his hand felt like an addiction I couldn't break. After I had cried enough, David Thompson cupped my face and kissed my swollen, red eyes. "Miss, the best way to forget a relationship is to start a new one." I don't know where the courage came from, but I grabbed his tie and kissed him. I felt him stiffen for a moment, then he took charge, deepening the kiss little by little. David Thompson's collarbone bene. His shirt gradually reddened. He asked in a husky voice, "Still want to leave me?" Before, I wanted to escape everything related to him. But now, I felt everything was incredibly precious. I blinked and tightened the arms around his neck, pulling myself closer to him. David Thompson's soft lips kissed mine. My mind went blank for a moment, and I could only let him do as he pleased. He had me completely breathless, and I slumped onto his shoulder, panting heavily. I was flushed with embarrassment and eagerly tried to get off him. But he held me down. "You started this, you have to take responsibility." The temperature in the room rose freely. His thin shirt couldn't contain his warmth at all. He kissed my neck wantonly, desire rising in waves. Just at the last moment, his movements abruptly stopped. Mark Miller kicked the door open, his face dark, standing in the doorway. His suppressed, tense voice came from the entrance. "What are you doing?" David Thompson carefully covered my exposed skin with my clothes, then lazily held me, meeting Mark Miller's gaze without fear. "Mr. Miller, if you have eye problems, go see an ophthalmologist. We're being intimate. Can't you tell? Or is it illegal to kiss your own fiancé?" David Thompson was holding me too tightly, and I squirmed uncomfortably. In Mark Miller's eyes, it took on a different meaning. His eyes turned bloodshot, and he roared furiously. "Sarah, have you no shame? Have you forgotten you still have a husband? How dare you openly cheat on me?" I tried to get up, but David Thompson's hand possessively gripped my waist, forcing me closer to him. I glared at him playfully, but he just laughed harder. "Miss is very busy and doesn't have time to answer you. I'll do you the favor of answering. You're already divorced. What kind of husband are you to her? Besides, you're the one who cheated. Stop twisting the facts." He grinned and lightly nipped my collarbone, eliciting a soft gasp from me. "Right, miss?" His eyes held a pitiful look, as if saying anything other than yes would make me seem like a heartless deserter. I looked at his slightly moving throat, and suddenly, on impulse, I lightly kissed him, shamelessly displaying the intimacy we had yet to complete. "Ignore him. Let's continue." David Thompson smirked triumphantly and gestured for the security guard to close the door, but Mark Miller held it open. "Then what is this?" In Mark Miller's hand was the locket, shattered into pieces. I looked at the object I had once cherished so much, which I wouldn't even take off when bathing, and my eyelids twitched. I hadn't expected him to find all the fragments and glue them back together. But I felt no joy, only the realization that my taste in the past had been terrible. I really didn't understand why he was pretending to be affectionate when we were already divorced. I lightly sucked on David Thompson's throat, reigniting the desire in his eyes, and then slowly spoke. "What can it be? Guess your eyesight is just good." Mark Miller's rage threatened to consume him. He violently punched the door frame. Then, thinking of something, he pulled Jessica beside him. "Sarah, I'm warning you, this game of playing hard to get will only push me further away. Jessica and I will get married soon. Don't regret it." He kissed Jessica's lips in front of me, trying to show me how good their relationship was. But I felt no ripple of emotion. I scoffed and found a comfortable position in David Thompson's arms. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations on your upcoming marriage. Don't invite me to the wedding. I'm afraid I won't get enough to eat. Jessica's face stiffened, then she walked towards me with a smug expression. Sister, thank you for your blessing. Mark is really good to me. He knew I was upset in the operating room, so he specially ordered someone to find a limited edition item to cheer me up. I heard you wanted his bag for a long time, but Mark gave it to me instead. With that, she giggled, covering her mouth. I sighed, shaking my head helplessly. It turned out that seeing people you no longer cared about flaunt their affection in front of you felt simply absurd. I had once seen this bag at the same time as Jessica. To maintain my dignity as Mrs. Miller, I had begged Mark Miller for a long time, but he never relented. But now, I didn't even want Mark Miller anymore, let alone a bag. Just as I was about to speak, David Thompson spoke disdainfully. Sweetheart, you should eat something good. A broken bag has you all puffed up. Or maybe you just have terrible taste. Also, if you're going to orchestrate this scheme to frame my miss, at least commit to the role. Your bandage fell off. He then turned to face Mark Miller. Mr. Miller, control your manipulative woman. Look how smug she is. It's embarrassing. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being impolite. With that, without waiting for their response, he ordered the security guards to forcibly remove them. I stared blankly at everything happening before me, feeling that the David Thompson in front of me was vastly different from the gentle and refined man in my memory. He took a sharp breath, looking at me with a wronged expression. Do you think I shouldn't have said that? Or, do you dislike me again? I didn't say anything, just looked at him with interest, suddenly finding him quite amusing. Why hadn't I noticed before? But it wasn't too late. He was mine now. I leaned down and kissed his lips, swallowing his words. Let's go home and prepare for the wedding. Mark Miller watched our backs disappear completely from the hospital, then turned around and yanked off the bandage on Jessica's leg, only to find the skin underneath smooth, without any trace of injury. You dared to lie to me. Jessica took a step back in fright. Mark, I. Seeing her reaction, Mark Miller finally understood her scheme. All the past events flooded his mind, the falling chandelier, the inexplicably changed surgery plan, and my desperate cries for help. Mark Miller fell onto a hospital bench in disbelief. Jessica, however, didn't give up and approached him again. Mark, all of this was because I love you. Let's have a good life together, okay? I'll take good care of you. Mark Miller pushed her away, as if she were something dirty and disgusting. Don't you dare touch me. Jessica clutched her stomach in pain, looking up with tear-filled eyes. You hit me? You hit me for that, Sarah. Mark Miller's eyebrow twitched. He grabbed Jessica's neck, his eyes blazing with astonishing hatred. Watch your mouth. Didn't I tell you? You can mess around however you want, but you are not allowed to hurt Sal. You deserve to die. Jessica's face turned red, and she spoke with difficulty. I deserve to die? You slept beside me, but you called her name every night. Even this bag, you clearly got it for Sarah, and only gave it to me because she didn't want it. How could I not be resentful? I'm pregnant with your child. All of this should have been mine. Jessica's words repeatedly struck his nerves. Countless images from the past flashed in his mind, proposing to me by the sea, saying he would only love me my whole life. Lying in his arms, dreaming together about who our future children would look like. But he had clearly grown tired of this relationship. He had said he didn't care about Sarah being with others. Why did seeing her with another man make him incredibly jealous? Even hearing they were getting married, his heart felt suffocated with pain. Mark Miller shook his head, only one thought in his mind. He couldn't lose her. She had loved him for 7 years, how could she just stop loving him? It must be that he had gone too far this time. If he just sweet-talked her properly, she would forgive him. And then, they could still have a good life together. Yes, he had to go find her and clarify everything. Mark Miller started to leave but was grabbed by the leg by Jessica. Mark, don't go. I'm pregnant with your child. You can't just abandon me and our child. Mark Miller slowly pried her fingers off his leg, his face showing no trace of lingering affection. I liked you only because of a momentary novelty, but the person I love is only Sal. Jessica screamed unwillingly. Mark Miller, if you dare to leave, I'll abort this child. Mark Miller paused, his eyes filled with bloodthirsty light. Do you think I would let you give birth to this child? With that, he gave his assistant a look and left without hesitation. He completely ignored Jessica, who was forcibly dragged into the operating room for an abortion. Sal, this time, we'll have a good life together. I was awakened by David Thompson's kisses. Even after a night of passion, he looked full of energy. The thought of how wild we had been last night made me blush, and I buried my head under the blanket, not daring to look at him. David Thompson was in a great mood and pulled me into his arms with a big sweep of his arm. Sal, I heard Blackwood Auctions has a rare, antique designer wedding gown and veil today. How about I bid on it for your wedding dress? When I was very young, I said I wanted a traditional wedding. I hadn't expected him to remember. My nose felt sore, and I could only softly hum my agreement, nestled against his shoulder. At the entrance of Blackwood Auctions, David Thompson helped me out of the car. A hoarse voice sounded from behind us. Sal. After a few days, Mark Miller's eyes were bloodshot, his face unshaven, looking terribly gaunt. Sal, I'm sorry. These past few days, I've checked all the surveillance footage at home and the hospital. I finally know you were framed. I've fired Jessica, and the child is gone. She won't have any more children. Will why? Oh, you come back with me? The late apology didn't make me happy at all. Instead, it felt incredibly hypocritical. I interrupted him without hesitation. Go back. I'm not coming with you. The damage was done, it couldn't be wiped away with a single apology. Moreover, I no longer loved him. Even the deepest feelings would completely disappear at the moment love ended. You're still angry with me, aren't you? You can hit me, curse at me, just please don't ignore me. Didn't you love me the most? I took a few steps back, avoiding his outstretched hand. Mr. Miller, please respect yourself. In these past 3 years, my feelings for you have completely run out. A trace of hurt flashed in his eyes, and he patiently coaxed. Sal, stop being difficult. I really know I was wrong. Let's go back and live a good life. I won't be a bastard anymore, okay? I love you. I truly love you. I just raised an eyebrow. Love? Mark Miller, don't you find that word laughable? With that, I turned and pulled David Thompson upstairs. Mark Miller wanted to say something else, but he was completely blocked by security guards and could only roar unwillingly. Sal, I'll prove to you that I truly love you. I lay listlessly against David Thompson, letting him hold me. It wasn't until the last item was presented for auction that I stood up, pushed aside the curtain, and went to take a closer look. I saw Mark Miller standing in the private box opposite, looking at me with eyes full of reluctance. Today's final item is the rare, antique designer wedding gown and veil, starting bid at $5 million. As soon as the host finished speaking, the light in our box turned on. I froze, asking David Thompson with my eyes. He looked at me slyly, like a child asking for candy. You like it? I won't give anyone else a chance. If you're touched, tonight. Seeing the security guards around us suppressing smiles, I blushed and covered his mouth. Tonight what, do? And say it again. I was already exhausted. How could he have so much energy? Mark Miller saw our interaction, his face turning green, and immediately ordered his people to signal the bid. Instantly, whispers broke out. What's going on? When two major bidders lock horns, it's a bidding war to the death. God's fighting, let's just watch the show. Soon, the sound of signaling bids rose one after another. This is my apology to my wife. I will win it no matter what. Mark Miller said across the distance. Soon, people recognized me. Isn't that Mrs. Miller? Why is she in Mr. Thompson's box? David Thompson scoffed dismissively. What a coincidence today. I also plan to bid on it as a wedding dress for my fiancé. I really can't give way. However, Mr. Miller, if I may be so bold, you're divorced, and you're still calling her your wife? Mark Miller's eyes were full of rage, and the veins on his hands gripping the railing bulged. Don't be smug. When I win Sal back, we'll see what you have to show off. David Thompson playfully cupped my face. Sal, will you go back to him? Looking at his childlike expression, I shook my head with a laugh. Only you. He laughed heartily, as if he had won the whole world. Did you hear that? Only me. I advise you to back down quickly. Don't lose your wife and end up bankrupt. Mark Miller's face flushed with anger, and he kept signaling his bid, pressing the button repeatedly. His assistant cautiously advised, Mr. Miller, our liquid funds can't keep up. His brow furrowed tightly, and he quickly waved his hand. Mortgage all my properties and keep bidding. The assistant tried to persuade him further but was intimidated by his gaze. David Thompson paid no attention to the situation opposite. He was like a clingy kitten, constantly rubbing against me. I said, caught between laughter and tears, you're really not afraid of going bankrupt? He looked up, as if he had a great idea. If I go bankrupt, will Sal support me? I'll be responsible for warming your bed every day. I tapped his head, never having felt so happy. Dave, let him have it. I don't want it anymore. He looked at me questioningly, then met my gaze and nodded understandingly, instructing someone to withdraw our bid. Mark Miller, holding the set of rare, antique designer wedding gown and veil as if it were a treasure, blocked my path. Sal, look, I got what you wanted for you. I love you, I truly mean it. Sal, will you come back to me? Looking at his tearful and smiling face, I felt that your late change of heart means nothing to me now. Mark Miller, what does buying it prove? I'm telling you, I withdrew the bid because I didn't want it anymore. Not just you, but anything you've touched, I don't want it. His mouth opened and closed. It took him a moment to speak. Sal, how can you be so heartless? Hearing these words, my stomach churned. Heartless? Where were you when I couldn't sleep at night? Where were you when I was framed? Where were you when I was desperately begging you to save me in the operating room? You keep saying you love me. Is this your love? Please put away your fake tears and fake love. It makes me sick. With that, I knocked over the rare, antique designer wedding gown and veil and walked over it without hesitation, never looking back. I heard that Mark Miller locked himself in his room, drinking daily while holding his wedding photo until he got alcohol poisoning and ended up in the hospital. I also heard that after that day, Mark Miller's company ran into financial trouble and went bankrupt soon after. But I didn't have time to care about him, because I was preparing for my own wedding. On the wedding day, Mark Miller forcibly pulled out his 4-needle and hid in the crowd, watching. I finally married Sal and made her my wife. David Thompson's words stimulated his nerves repeatedly. Once, he had celebrated on his wedding day, feeling lucky to have married the girl he loved most. But now, he could only watch as his former love walked step by step towards her own happiness. He wanted to stop it like a madman, but he had no status or right to do so anymore. He could only bid farewell to that girl with tears in his eyes. Sal, goodbye. In our next life, will you give me another chance? Finally, he walked into the deep sea without hesitation, letting the water drown him. He had his chance and lost it. Now, it's too late.